Around the time of my fourth grade years, I had what would be one of my most inspiring experiences as a child. This was my first out-of-body experience, which occurred one night, I believe shortly after I'd gone to sleep, because I could tell by things that I saw along the way. I had shortly gone to sleep, and I was usually I would go to sleep while looking up at the ceiling, which was the kind of spackled popcorn ceiling, and I was seeing patterns in the ceiling the way you would imagine patterns in the clouds in the sky as I was going to sleep, and I'd gone to sleep, and then not that long after that I realized I was looking at the patterns again, but they were much closer than I had seen them before. It was as if my face was right up against them and I was seeing them from a few inches away, and then I seemed to kind of roll over and I saw myself curled up asleep on the bed, and then I continued at that point to move upwards, and it became dark for a second as I passed through the ceiling and the roof of the house, and then I was staring down at the cedar shingles on top of the house. And I continued to move up and just away from the house, and I looked over and I saw my mother sitting on her bed working on a crossword puzzle, watching The Tonight Show. Carson was probably on there. And I have to say that I wasn't feeling any real sense of fear or necessarily even all that much excitement at that point. I was just seeing what I was seeing. I was in an observation mode. I've heard people call this an ego loss mode. I was simply observing what I was seeing, and not really, there weren't a lot of critical thoughts in my head about anything. I was just seeing it as it was. And then I, after seeing my mother in the window, I was outside of the house, and I continued to move upwards until I was a few hundred feet above the house, looking down there, and I could still see the light on in the window, my parents' window. At that point, I turned my focus away from the house, and I was a few hundred or 1,000 feet up in the air, and I could see around myself maybe a slight shimmering outline. It was as if I was fairly transparent even to myself, but I could see a slight shimmering outline of some kind of energy body. At that point, I thought about it was more what I wanted to see. It was more of a focus, and I thought about as I moved almost instantly to I believe I was in the mountains in Colorado, and there was snow falling, and there was snow all over the hillside where I was, and I started to explore the mountains, and I went into the snow, under the snow, and into the rock of the mountain, and out the other side of the mountains. I was exploring and feeling it. I could feel the different energies of the things as I moved through them, though they weren't solid, but I was observing them in a way that's only possible from this state, because you can get down inside of things, and yet even under the mountain there was a sort of light of the matter itself. And I believe it's possible, and I can go into this in other series later, to have then gone into smaller elements than is normally possible. Like I could have explored a small rock or gone into an atom inside of anything that I was exploring during that night. I came out the other side of the mountain. I remember seeing a cabin. I went over to the cabin, went through the wall of the cabin, and the woman was walking by from the kitchen carrying two mugs of a hot beverage to a man sitting on a sofa who was reading a paper. And then I continued on out the other side of the cabin. I thought about the ocean, and there was another blur, and I was at the beach, and I was flying over the ocean and over the beaches and into the beaches under the sand, and over the ocean and into the ocean and under the ocean down into the earth below the ocean. I remember I think I passed right through the earth, went through the molten core, and I explored lots of other things that night before I just felt a sense of, I focused on myself for a second, and I found myself back over my body, and I felt myself get in. There was a sensation of like putting on a glove as whatever that energy body is re-entered my body. I felt it fitting itself back into place, and then there was a sense of a click. I heard a click, and I woke up, and I was able to move in my body again. But I remembered it was unlike any dream that I would ever said I've had. And I was very aware of my dreams, and I'd had lucid dreams before this point. And this was more like being fully awake, but floating around and being able to instantly see whatever I would focus upon. And that's my first out-of-body experience, which inspired me to do a lot of research. It certainly focused me in a certain orientation of study and development in my life, and I just thought I'd share that with you. Thanks.